Row 18, plot 20.
Hey everybody, welcome to Now It's Dark. I'm Jim. Today we're going to talk about a new movie that was released on January 27th, 2023, and it is called Fear. It is also known as Don't Fear. This is a 1 hour and 40 minute horror movie that gets a 3.5 star rating on IMDb. And it's directed by Deon Taylor, and it is written by John Ferry and also Deon Taylor. And stars, our main two stars, Kim, is played by Tyler Abron. She's really the big focus of the movie. And her boyfriend is Ram, and for some reason he's really low on the cast list. Joseph Sikora, and he actually looked a little familiar. So this movie is very the synopsis is very short. It's a much needed getaway, and a celebration weekend turns into a nightmare due to the contagious airborne threat. Now this was a blind watch for me, and I didn't know about the contagious airborne threat part of it when I started watching it. So at first I thought, okay, this movie was filmed during the pandemic, so they're referencing things like masks and the friends having been tested before they all got together for this weekend getaway. So at first I thought it was just, state of the world kind of thing, not a plot device. So, Ram and Kim are a couple. Ram wants to surprise her with a weekend getaway, and she doesn't know that he has invited all of their friends to be with them at this lodge in the quaint little town of Strawberry. I don't know if it was Strawberry Hills or Strawberry something or other, but it has a long history of gold rush and mining area back in the day. So Ram is a writer who is struggling to find inspiration for his next book. There's an underlying possibility that maybe that's why he wanted to book this vacation at the lodge to get some material for a book. Kim is surprised when they get there, and she repeatedly tells him that he didn't need to do this for her. So, little spoilery, he was going to propose but chickens out, and we find out later that it's like the fourth time that he's almost proposed. And there are bigger secrets between the two of them that get revealed later on in the movie that kind of add to the twist about the relationship. It's hard to gauge like where the stress level is or the trust level is between these two characters. So at the hotel, all the friends meet up. They surprise her. They're like, surprise, and she's like, oh my gosh, you're all here. And they're like, oh my gosh. And the guys are like, dude, did you do it or what? Did you give her the ring? And he's like, no. And they're like, dude, you can't keep chickening out. If you love her, then do that. And it's a montage of meeting all of the characters that way. As I always refer to them as the collateral damage, the cannon fodder, the people that are going to be picked off throughout the movie. So the only other character outside of this group is Miss Winrich, and she's like the owner of the lodge who they've rented from. It's a big, in the middle of the woods, big, like, I guess it was a hotel back in the day when the miners were around. And she gives them a bottle of wine and she also insists on them participating in the tradition of memorializing their visit by taking a picture of them with a Polaroid camera. Again, we get more in-depth introduction to the characters as everybody goes to their rooms. Miss Winrich leaves the premises, so they have the whole building to themselves. And we get introduced to like character threads, each different people. One of them appears to be sick with a cough. Other ones have other issues going on. I'm not going to be too spoilery. But we are also introduced to the major plot thing that a lot of movies do. They have to find a way to work into the story how there's no cell phone service. So there's no 6G, there's no 5G, there's no 4G, there's 0G cell service. So that always comes up because, it would be easy for anyone in the audience to say, why didn't they just call for help? Well, there's no cell service. That's why. And apparently there's no landlines anywhere in America anymore. So then they all decide to meet. They get together at a fire pit in the evening. They get some backstory, some history of Strawberry from Rom. So he's been researching. He tells about the gold rush miners. He tells a little tale of some other things that I actually won't mention because that would be spoilery to the plot. And everyone thinks, that it's just interesting. He leaves out some details though, and it is about the actual location where they're staying. One interesting thing, when they go back inside, and they kind of break off into groups again, one of the TVs has on in the background a evangelist preacher doing a sermon on TV. And I don't know why I get a kick out of that. I love seeing that in the backgrounds of horror movies. It was a major plot point in X. So that would be the most recent other movie that I've noticed it in. But it's in all sorts of movies. And I don't know why I'm drawn to that. I think it's fun. I don't know if they're making fun, but if you usually listen to whatever the preacher is saying, it does have some sort of a tie-in to the theme of things that are going on within the movie, and I always think that that's clever. Take it for what it is. So everybody goes to their separate rooms. There starts becoming... they drink the wine. And everybody gags on it. Kim did not drink the wine. And that should be like a red flag. Like, oh, why didn't Kim drink the wine? And nobody noticed, actually. I think it's so subtle that if you aren't paying attention, it's not a big deal because it'll be revealed later why she didn't drink the wine without being said. Like, they don't say, oh, that's why she didn't drink the wine, or she says, that's why I didn't drink. It clicks. It'll become a thing that'll click. We get a news report that the outside is so dangerous now that you can't go outside. There's airborne contagion, mist, whatever. You can't go outside. So everybody now is trapped inside. One person does decide to leave, and I won't mention who. Actually, I didn't mention any of the other friends, but there's a lot of them, actually. It's a pretty big group. But everybody starts having hallucinations or things having to do with fear, and that is because at the fire pit, they also made a pact to tell each other what their biggest fears were, and then they go about the rest of the fire pit. And like I said, so back to inside, and now they're having hallucinations. So I can't really give too much away, but it's hard to tell what's hallucination and what might be a entity or a presence within the hotel. So it becomes like kind of interwoven. It becomes like a mishmash. There is definitely a hotel story. I wish it had been more predominant, and it might have been. It could have been just that I am so pandemic fatigued that once the thread was introduced at the beginning of the movie, I probably notched down my attention level just a bit, because I just was like, ugh. But overall, it's not a bad movie. 3.5 might be a little low. Maybe that'll go up in time since it is so fairly new. There's some cool imagery. There's some decent some CGI that's pretty decent. The acting overall isn't horrible. It's a low budgety film. I don't think I saw the actual budget. This was filmed at the actual Strawberry Lodge in California, so there you go. It says it's made almost $2 million in the US and Canada. I don't know how up to date that is, but it's not a horrible movie. It's not also very new theme, a weekend getaway that goes bad between a group of friends. So, but there's enough stuff in there that it keeps your interest. So I would rate it higher than 3.5, maybe a 4.5 or 5, not like super high, but it's definitely not a horrible movie at all. Again, I probably toned down my attention level just because of the all of a sudden realization that this was going to be like a pandemic type movie. But there's definitely, I don't know if I want to call it paranormal or ghosts or what, but there's definitely another side to this movie. So that works on the title Fear. But the fear also is the fear of each other, because one person has asthma, so every time she gasps for air, people freak out, so like there is that fear. It's touching on the fears we all had to go outside or to go into public during the pandemic, but I don't know that it worked for me because I'm so far removed from that. So if you're still living in that kind of thought process, then this is probably going to be more intense for you than it was for me. But overall, not a bad movie. Let me know if you've seen this or have heard of it or have any fears or, whatever. And I would love to hear it. And thanks for watching Now It's Dark.
So have your dream. Go on and sing your song. There's nothing wrong with singing out of tune. If people laugh and say your dream can never be, just think of